Good evening, one and all. Welcome back to the Weekly Steelchair on a Tuesday. Not our usual time. Well, to be fair, the channel does a lot of content at the minute, so any day is really a Steelchair day.
Yeah, and it's not a usual day, though, of course, the thumbnail and, the general topic of discussion is most certainly like any other day, because alongside some other topics, we've got to talk about our favourite person again and what he's been up to over there. So we're here for a special Tuesday edition. And yeah, we're here for the next hour or so. We'll just see what happens.
Yeah, we definitely are. Before we even get into tonight's show, we may as well just get on with it. How you doing?
Yep, doing all right. Back to work on a reasonably full schedule from tomorrow. This is basically the last day of the true holiday, so we'll be back on it. No, doing really well. Yourself?
I'm not so bad. I've just finished work myself. Decent day. But we're going to see how this one goes. Tonight's show, of course, is split into three topics. Generally, going to be here for about an hour, and we'll be here for well over an hour anyway. Standard Steelchair freelance fee. You're cashed in for over an hour regardless. Split into three. So we're going to discuss CM Punk's perspective on this whole work shoot. We're going to discuss Hangman and several others who were kicked out of Collision. And then we're going to discuss the resurfaced manifesto of one lovely little lady from Japan who is the best worker in WWE by a landslide from a woman's perspective. And that's Asuka. So if you're a Charlotte fan, if you're a Bayley fan, if you're a...
Let's not desert the other people, okay? You're allowed your opinion.
If you're a Bianca Belair fan, if you're a Rhea Ripley fan,
I struggle to agree with you on the Asuka thing. Because I think Bianca Belair's superior. But in any case, we're here.
That's your opinion, but she's not really superior. She's good, but she's not superior.
Well, anyway, we are here to discuss her manifesto. But before we get into that, we've of course got, we've kind of flipped it because he's usually the main event, but I don't actually want to give him the honor of that. I want to get him out the way like a dark match. I said it was feeling clicky. I said there was the chance that the people who were on the elite side were afraid of CM Punk.
They are scared of him.
Yeah, that seems to be the exact case that we've got now. Concerning reports here. I would use the word concerning, not not disgusting or anything like that. But I'd certainly, my concern is there for the people who were brought into the company by the elite. What this could potentially mean for them going forward now that CM Punk seems to have not only creative control, power to do essentially what he pleases with his own career, but now he gets to, in essence, make or break other people's careers. Because, it's a bit like if Roman Reigns told someone to just not show up. Don't come to SmackDown tonight.
Well, we know what he's capable of anyway. We know that.
Very true. But yeah, what was your initial reaction to the Punk thing, the punkening?
Well, I mentioned it briefly before we went live that it seems to come across as it was a planned work shoot because they want to build back towards Punk versus the Elite, which we actually spoke about last week. And we did agree. We did agree as well that the biggest match in AEW history, if they actually go towards it, would be CM Punk versus Kenny Omega. We both agreed on that. We both agreed on that. There is levels to this game. There is levels, and they are that level when you think about it. Out the Elite,
there's nothing bigger they could actually do.
Yeah. Omega is by far the absolute best out of the Elite. It's not even like a scaled metric. It's when you think of the Elite, automatically you just think of Kenny Omega, and then when you think of the other side of it, realistically, you're going to be thinking about CM Punk, unless you have a general consensus of favorites, which is completely fine. Everyone's got their favorites. Everyone's got their dislikes. You know mine. I know yours. It's completely cool.
Very true. Yeah. And it's weird for me, this story, because I dislike just about everyone involved for different reasons.
Yes.
So it's really kind of, it's a bizarre story where I don't know who I want to be right and I don't know who I want to win, but I feel like it falls on the side that I don't want CM Punk to be doing this.
I think what they're trying to do in a nutshell, and we kind of anticipated that a while ago, as we spoke about, is we eventually foresaw that they're going to eventually come back to this feud. Eventually, they're going to come back to. We spoke about this a month ago. We saw that eventually the Elite and CM Punk somehow would cross paths, and we initially thought it would just be Punk and Omega.
Yeah,
looking at it, it was marked as a build, work, shoot to try and create this feud. Obviously, we both looked into this as well. We've looked into it thoroughly before we come live. We're making sure it's none of this bollocks or just bringing our opinion. Of course, we always bring our opinions, but at least we're going to bring context. Before we went live, there was another thing as well that happened today that has made it a little bit more fuzzy. Well, for me, my exact words were I feel fuzzy by this storyline. The reason I feel fuzzy by it is, why would you immediately jump to this work shoot when you've been planning for a while CM Punk versus Samoa Joe? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and you've already got in the pipeline as well. You've already got Adam Cole and you've got MJF there. There's so many cross paths, and I'm like, why would you immediately jump the gun? Why would you plan for that feud when you've already got CM Punk and Samoa Joe right there, where Samoa Joe is literally and actively attacking the real world's champion? He done it at Collision. He choked him out. And it's just fuzzy, but why would you jump the gun straight away? And I'm going to say this as well, because if it was WWE, I would have the same energy. If you've got a feud for one of your main champion, you've already got a feud in the mix, why would you just go and immediately jump to the next one? You at least want to have some sort of continuity. And to be honest, I think there's a great example. They done it with Drew McIntyre and Karrion Kross whilst he was in the feud with Roman Reigns. Remember before Clash?
Yeah,
he literally showed up. He literally showed up for Clash of the Champions, and he was interjecting himself into this feud when it had nothing to do with him. And I'll have the same energy. I'll have the same energy towards AEW in this case, because it makes no sense to me. But what I find very interesting, and that's what we're going to talk about right now, is Punk actually apologized. What do you think on that one? Are you surprised that Punk apologized?
I think Punk had to apologize because, okay.
Hi, Justin.
There's multiple possibilities there, and good evening to everyone watching. It could be that the apology comes out because
we don't. I'm just going to say this now. We don't need that discussion. We don't need that discussion. Trust me, and I'll let Eilidh explain exactly why we don't need that discussion. And Connor again, because AEW is very new and have shown some flaws of how they run. Yeah, that's true. Every new company does have flaws.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm concerned about the optics of the situation, and I think it is all to do with optics. I think the reason Punk has apologized because he has said more than enough throughout his career that certainly that I haven't believed, and people could argue, well, he said he'd be back and he came back. Yeah, he came back for a billionaire's, bag, basically. He didn't come back out of the goodness of his heart, people. We've covered that on this show before. I think his apology seems to be that didn't go to plan. Now people are painting me as the villain. I'm not the villain. There was a misunderstanding.
I agree. I'm just going to turn my camera because it's too bloody hot, so I'm going to take this hoodie off. But you carry on. You carry on.
Yeah, so that's one way you can look at it. You can look at it like, okay, well, is CM Punk disappointed with how that went down and so he apologizes, or is it this work shoot thing where actually this is all going to plan? The reason I don't think it's the work shoot thing is why on earth would you do that as a company that won't even tell us what happened in August of last year? It makes no sense. All of AEW's work shoot stuff does not make sense until they address what happened in August. And I get that. That's not a work shoot. That was a proper shoot. But if you're going to work a shoot, you would have to have the same... You'd have to have the same attitude towards the shoot so that we couldn't see through it. So if the latest installment of this CM Punk drama leads to a match, people then start thinking that the very first bit was a shoot, which, you know, every reputable source has said it absolutely wasn't. All of the eyewitness accounts have said it's not. Obviously, the Elite still not exactly on the best terms with CM Punk, particularly Hangman Page. So it's tricky for me to even begin to trust a word that CM Punk says, because it could literally just be, look, I need to save face because that didn't go to plan. And I think you're absolutely correct with that comment in there. YTS, if I can be so formal.
Call him Connor. Call him Connor.
Okay, Connor. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. You know, I think CM Punk gets far too much respect. I think CM Punk gets far too much power. But I also think that the reason he's got so much power is because no one is brave enough to take it off him because they know what happens. You upset CM Punk takes his ball and goes home. You lose $1 million plus, you know, star.
You lose a lot, to be fair.
You do. You lose a lot. There's one thing, much like, you know, in the same way that I can't say Brock Lesnar isn't a draw. I can't say CM Punk. I can't say CM Punk isn't a draw. So it's the same sort of thing. And I understand that as well, Justin, coming in at it from that angle, okay?
It's a fair comment, Justin saying, don't know about Connor's tape. Punk revived the 2010s considering Cena was the top guy. Yeah, Cena was the top guy. A lot of people quit wrestling because of John Cena. Not because they hate him.
I have like viewership numbers in front of me, but I've always felt that CM Punk wasn't as big a lot. The best thing CM Punk did for him was go away.
Yeah, he should have stayed, and I think
he had a lot of fans. But I mean, I've said it before on the show. When he was away, that's when he was at his loudest. The voice of the voiceless when he wasn't there.
Yeah,
but now that he has a voice, this voice of the voiceless thing now just seems to be, you know, John Cena absolutely nailed him for it in the early to mid 2010s. You only want change if it benefits you.
Yeah.
And that's what this feels like. This feels like CM Punk's living out his John Cena Triple H power fantasy. You know, is it finally I get to decide what's on the card? Finally, I get to say that I'm the world champion and I'm the top draw and this and that and the other, because quite frankly, you couldn't hack doing it in WWE.
Yeah. Comment by Connor, of course, says, weirdly enough, when he left wrestling completely, nothing really changed. It's only bad for AEW because they're not established. Well, one thing technically did change when he was away. One thing did happen, apart from this. His wife retired. I mean, that was the biggest loss to WWE anyway in terms of a women's division, an actual credible women's talent. Like, because she was actually the best they actually had. Like, and they ruined that, in my opinion. What I was going to say is what did change was his name came up, but we know why his name came up. His name came up for everything WWE fans used that they didn't like. And I found that to be quite if it was a segment they found boring, or if it was a women's match in particular, it happened a lot during the women's matches, which I did find to be quite unfair and disrespectful. It was always the CM Punk chants, or every time Triple Beak had a 20-minute promo that didn't go anywhere.
Well, yeah, CM Punk became the, like, if you're annoyed, chant CM Punk.
Yeah, it was similar. It was the opposite of a what chant. The what chant was just to force you to repeat yourself. The CM Punk chant was like, well, fuck this, we're bored, we're out.
And it was also white noise, because if you truly want someone to stop doing what you're doing, stop watching.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
And it did show
going
that.
Along and chanting something, we've seen it. You know, companies can sweeten the audio. They can make it sound like that's not what you did. They can repackage something, and ultimately they've got the final sort of weapon in that arsenal, which is to just wait till you forget it. And if you don't forget it, go along as if you have forgotten it.
I'm gonna disagree with a bit of this comment. Cena earned every ounce of what he's gotten. Kind of disagree on that one. Punk has run his mouth, and that's pretty much all he's got. He's not honestly a super great wrestler. Technically, slightly above average. I think that's fair. But I'll say this as well. Cena was literally gifted the opportunity from Vince when there was better options around. There were generally better options than him. Orton brought Lesnar until he quit. I would also say, would I say Randy Orton? Randy Orton was the best option right there. They went with Cena because it was right there for him. He walked in, took an opportunity. I'm not saying Cena's awful, by the way, but to say he earned it, you don't always have to earn something to get it.
No, I think this is different. I think because Cena earned it. Cena earned it on the back of, you know, everything he did in OVW, everything he did, like, you know, the always sort of evolving his look until he found that one that stuck. And ultimately, you're talking about how there was a better option in Randy Orton. Just natural, just a babyface option than John Cena. But no, I think John Cena has earned everything that he got. And to an extent, I think CM Punk earned everything that he had. The problem was CM Punk thought he was entitled to more than he had earned. CM Punk had earned an upper mid-card babyface slot, and he'd had a run as the top heel of the company for 434 days as a champion. I don't get what he was crying about. I'm not main eventing WrestleMania. It's The Rock, dude. It's The Rock.
I think what's interesting though is one of those years I think would actually been fine to main event him. Not both. I'm not saying give him both years as a main eventer, but maybe not WrestleMania 28, but WrestleMania 29, even though his match against Taker was actually really good. Taker's last great match until he wrestled Styles in the Boneyard cinematic match.
Yeah, I think the reason that you couldn't have that match not main event at either point is because they were selling us on once in a lifetime.
Yeah.
And we didn't know it was twice in a lifetime. It turned out that it was twice in a lifetime before it was even once in a lifetime. They'd signed a deal to do too.
Yeah,
but the fans didn't know that until the following night, basically. You know, until like the build happened.
It wasn't well received by many, which is a shame because I enjoyed both nights. I'm not a Cena fan, but I actually like both outcomes in different ways. Like obviously, I got to see The Rock main event at WrestleMania again. That was cool. He went over. Following year, he done the opposite. He put the business over and done the option there. But I still think they could have. I think the once in a lifetime made sense to main event because that is something that you would never have expected. That is it's like what we got 10 years before with Hogan versus Rock that should have main evented WrestleMania 18 at Skydome. Generation to generation clash. You're never going to see that again. That's what we thought. We were never going to see Rock versus Cena again. It's a big main event match at WrestleMania. After this, Rock is going to do what The Rock needs to do, and that's leave, and he'll carry on with his Hollywood career.
Yeah, and what was the big main event Punk match that he thinks he should have had? Because if he thinks he should have had The Rock, well, he already fought The Rock, the Royal Rumble, got the title to him.
I think the one he wanted was Punk versus Cena. I think he wanted Cena at Mania. It's actually quite surprising that he spoke about Cena a lot negatively, but he also said Cena was his greatest opponent.
And yeah, Justin, I have no idea if Punk was originally booked to win the 2014 Rumble.
I think it was him or Daniel Bryan, but then they changed it when Batista became available. I think when Batista became available, that's when it was like, well, we could always bring him back because Batista is, even though he's an absolute twat, he is an absolute draw. He is a draw in himself. Obviously, they got it horribly wrong.
Yeah, Batista's more of a draw. I mean, especially back then, Batista was more of a draw than CM Punk. But it was the fans in attendance.
The fans were on his side.
Yeah, it was your vocal fans. Mm-hmm. But this is the problem, and the thing that you'll learn as you get into wrestling and you see more things that you disagree with. We are the quiet, like it's the quiet majority that keeps us down from what we want. And I mean, the most recent example, I think most of the IWC wanted Finn Balor to win the World Heavyweight title over Seth Rollins.
I literally told people on this channel Finn Balor would not win the world title, and I actually got a lot of people tweeting me saying you're insane.
But it's because the loud fan wanted that. But the quiet fan, you're sort of everyday WWE fan goes, well, that Seth Rollins has a catchy tune. I'd rather just, do this forever. So they don't care about what the radical fan wants, the invested fan. It's not quality of fan, it's quantity they're looking for. And if you run that argument back, that's why they went with Batista over CM Punk. That's why they went with The Rock over CM Punk. That's why Cena was over CM Punk so often. Because, as I say, it was just due to how over these other people were, how popular they were, not among the fans that would go and voice their discontent. WWE didn't care. WWE were like, okay, you 2,000, 3,000 fans in Brooklyn, or you 1,500 fans in Ohio, boo all you like. Because there are people on Twitter, sort of families, kids are absolutely loving it because John Cena's on top. Families are loving it. Old Attitude Era fans are going, that's The Rock, I'm going to watch. And if that meant alienating 2005 Ring of Honor watchers, that's what WWE were going to do. That's why Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn don't get the time in the main event slots Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins do.
Yeah, that's true.
It's
quite hypocritical. But it's quite hypocritical of that, you know what I mean? Not
saying the mid-2010 Ring of Honor watchers that aren't going to, or like early 2010s Ring of Honor watchers, that are going to voice for El Generico and Kevin Steen to be on top. Much like the 2005 Ring of Honor watchers wanted CM Punk to be on top all that time. We will get the same outcome. They might get a run. Sami Zayn's had a hot streak. It's run out. Kevin Owens had his hot streaks. Not sure he'll get another one.
Like Sami's jobbing now. Like Sami is now, in my opinion, a full-on jobber.
Yeah, and CM Punk had his hot streak. The difference with AEW is it's all those Ring of Honor fans that went over. So it's AEW's fan base. What it doesn't have in size, it makes up for in its passion. Sometimes in the wrong way, but most of the time in a respectful and proper manner. They enjoy the wrestling that they see.
I agree with you on that one.
This is the power fantasy CM Punk was living out this whole time. He wanted 2005 Ring of Honor with the audience of Monday Night Raw. Now, of course, he's not getting the audience of Monday Night Raw, but he is getting more of an audience, more attention now. Major pay-per-view events, sometimes 1 million people watching, sometimes not. Most of the time not.
Yeah.
But, that's what he wanted. And if controlling this backstage situation and deciding, being a gatekeeper and deciding who can get in and who can't,
Agreed.
Based on who they're affiliated with, that doesn't end well. That's not going to end well. And Tony Khan is too weak to stop it.
I think what's interesting, though, and this is just what I'm thinking about it, just from looking at everything as well, excuse me, is despite the circumstances between Punk and the Elite, there is one thing that I do think Punk actually has genuine in mind, and that is the long-term future of Collision. And the reason I'm thinking, I know your strong opinion on this, and to be fair, that's completely fine. Like we've always said since day one, since me and you started doing this podcast, since you joined the podcast, since way back when, is our opinions and our perspectives are always going to be respected and listened to, and we're always going to find a way of discussing it.
Yeah,
and I know for quite some time you said Collision is a Punk show, and that's completely fine. I'm completely fine with that take. But what I also think as well is he's actually trying to make it more of a genuinely interesting product to watch because of who are actually involved on the show. But he's actually actively trying to get people with great creative minds to be involved. The likes of Steamboat or a Jake Roberts. He's trying to get them on a creative function. And I'm like, I think the one thing is, I said it last week, and I've said it since the first show, even though the viewing has dipped, I've yet to see a bad Collision. Collision has been consistently good, bar maybe one or two things that just didn't make any sense. It's generally been good shows, whereas Dynamite has had its ups and downs. You can generally see the difference between a Dynamite book show and a Collision book show. I feel like the better creative is actually on the Saturday night. And I'd actually wonder what would happen if you flipped Dynamite and Collision, if you actually flipped them both in terms of Dynamite's on the Saturday, Collision was on the Wednesday. I actually wonder what you would see, especially because it's actually catering to different fans, whereas I think Dynamite is more catering towards a specific fan. And I'm looking at it in that way, and I'm thinking, is Punk an arsehole? Yes. But I generally do think in another circumstance, but I do think even though it comes across a bit too extreme in terms of people being sent home, Dolph Ziggler's brother, Ryan Nemeth, was sent home, which was bizarre. Matt Hardy was sent home. Hangman Page was denied entry into Collision, sent home. It feels like
and then
they've been removed, but it looks like he's still trying to get that creative function behind in terms of who's actually running the show. I still think there's maybe some things that can be done to make it slightly better. That's my opinion. But I was a bit bizarre by some of the individuals that were sent home. I don't think that does enough. I don't think it has to get to the extreme of you sending people home unless there's something else behind it. You know what I mean?
I think one of the major things CM Punk's doing wrong here, I think it's quite cowardly. Like, people are talking about how it's so great that, you know, CM Punk, he's not standing for anyone's shit. He's calling them out, you know. Have you noticed he always calls Hangman Page out or cuts a promo on Hangman Page when Hangman Page physically can't be there?
Yeah, I'd like to at least see one promo. And say what you want
about Hangman Page and how he's staying off it. He at least said what he thought about CM Punk to his fucking face.
I only said one thing.
Hangman's a bigger man in this situation. He shouldn't have done it. But when you look at the fact that CM Punk won't leave this alone, if you seek out his promo from
Saturday.
It was after Collision, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'll see if I can find word for word what he said, and then I will...
Yeah, that should be pretty easy to do. But he called out Hangman, saying that he doesn't respect him. You know, saying this, saying that about him, that he's just... what was it he said? He
said, what does Hangman actually mean? And he spoke about toys and Walmart and all that stuff. I'm just trying to see if I can find the exact
he brought up merchandise sales, but he also said, like, you know, Hangman's an apt way to describe you. You know, just this, that, and the other. It's like, I mean, you know, if we're gonna play playground insults here, at least Hangman said what he thought of you to your face. Both times that you've cut promos back on Adam Page, or any time you've mentioned it, you haven't said it to his face. Now, I don't doubt that Punk's MMA stylings are probably ahead of that of Adam Page, but why is he not either leaving it alone or calling out Hangman Page and saying all this to his face? Like, he's trying to have his cake and eat it. He's trying to say, I'm the best and Hangman's nothing, while also being in places where he absolutely knows nothing can happen to him. Because Tony Khan won't say anything. Tony Khan is firmly in CM Punk's back pocket.
I think there's so much more to it that even we don't know.
I think people need to start looking at the fact that this is a cowardly man who's just trying to set up this world where he's king of the castle and everyone else below him, he gets to pick his knights, you know. He'll pick Ricky Starks, he'll pick FTR, he'll pick Will Hobbs. And fair enough not wanting to deal directly with the elite, but why the fuck is it CM Punk's decision who's on that show?
I think it will come down to there are definitely others involved. I mean, I'm not distinctly sure, but I also know this as well. FTR, Dax Harwood. Dax Harwood is on. He is involved as well with creative as well. There's a few others, but I know Dax Harwood is. I found this interesting. This comes from WrestlingHeadlines.com. This was written by Nick Hossman from Hoss of Wrestling. And he's full report, but this is just one interesting paragraph. So everybody, get your comments in after I've read this out. I'll say it word for word. Let me know what you think about just this one paragraph. So his paragraph, and I quote, "More drama has since surfaced, stating that several AEW talents, including Ryan Nemeth, Matt Hardy, and also Christopher Daniels, have been sent home from AEW Collision in recent weeks due to CM Punk not wanting them there to cause any additional conflicts, as they're all close with the elite." Houseman adds context, stating that Punk didn't want Nemeth to stir the pot as he did in the past with his softest man alive tweet. As for Daniels, he was present for the Brawlout incident, and since Ace Steel can't be backstage due to his involvement, Punk felt that it would only be fair if Daniels could not come around either. Now, there is a report here, so I'm just going to see if I can bring the report. But I'm going to say this as well, and I'm going to take to my grave. Of all the names you do not want to be on your show, the last name I would ever say, in my opinion, the last person I'm ever going to say about a pro wrestler who I do not want on my shows or backstage is Christopher Daniels. He is the last name from that roster. Because
I completely understand that, but at the same time, you know, fuck you and your friends is basically what's been said. And there's more to the Christopher Daniels one, where it was basically, well, Ace Steel isn't allowed here. You know, if I'm not allowed my boyfriend, you're not allowed yours. And of course, each their own. But it is a bit like that.
Whoa, 1 minute. What? Come on, Luca, come on. Nah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But this man, I'm sorry. Nah. He's literally
attacked.
he is literally in two of the best triple threat matches I've ever seen. He's one of the best hybrid style wrestlers I've ever watched. Nah, come on.
Reece is feeling attacked right now, people.
Fuck.
Look up.
Jesus.
Fantastic comment there, because we have rattled Reece.
Son of a bitch. I'll say this as well. This is another thing as well, and I'm coming back to that report. Look up, just because you're an Arsenal fan doesn't mean you need to come in with mad comments like that, mate. But here's a comment, and this is one thing I want to ask you, right? And then we'll come on to what I just read.
Okay.
So this was directly from Fightful, so it's very short, and also comes from Wrestling Observer, so this is quite funny. It says, Fightful reports that Ryan Nemeth was set to appear on Collision this past week, was sent home after being told he wasn't needed. Earlier today on WR, Wrestling Observer Radio, Meltzer confirmed the report and stated that this was not the first time this has happened to Nemeth or others on the roster. Matt Hardy was apparently booked as well and was told not to go to the building after getting into town for the taping. So he literally turned up, and then he was told just to, well, in other words, you're a veteran, but fuck off. The same goes for Christopher Daniels, who has been working Ring of Honor tapings and is the promotion's head of talent relations. So this is not just a veteran of over 20 odd years. just because he's friends with the Elite, nothing to do with that. He's got a higher position than Ace Steel had. He is head of talent. He's like the guy.
This is what it all comes down to, though. CM Punk feels attacked because his friend had to leave the company, and Daniels didn't have to leave the company because at the time the EVPs at the time of the incident.
I never want to see this again because this was horrible. It was horrible for what happened after the storyline, considering what happened, even though it was actually a good feud.
I never even want to see Jeff Hardy again. Period. I don't even mean in a wrestling ring. I don't want to see that piece of fucking trash anywhere.
There's so much coming from Jeff Hardy. Like, the fact he says at least he's healthy, I'm okay with that. But there's just some things that
I think I've got one last world title run in me.
I wish you said one last tag title run, and I'd be like, I totally believe you.
He wants as much distance from Matt Hardy as everyone else watching AEW. Punk is going to run AEW in the ground. He's going to alienate Collision and make wrestlers leave. Also, not want to join AEW.
Like Leeds now with how fans are acting. Like Leeds now with how fans are acting like players leaving.
Yeah, I was like, hang on a minute. We are talking about the football team. So I know that's happening, but I just no. What a great comparison right there, Connor.
Yeah, I agree on that one.
But, I mean,
but yeah, back to that.
With
the head of your talent relations.
Yeah, but this promotion with Tony Khan at the head of it has always had that vibe that it's not going to be around for it. We're here for a good time, not a long time. That appears to be what they're actually going for, because they are going to end up in this situation where they've just got like a civil war. And
there's a comment. I found it. Sorry, I found it. Punk branded Page as a peg warmer, unlike me who moves merchandise and sells toys.
I wanted to be careful around using the word peg in case I gave you the complete wrong meaning. I didn't want to give you something that you didn't say.
I would like you anyway.
I don't think anyone wants to hear about that, especially, people will be having their dinner.
That's fine.
But yeah, WCW. There you go. That's where I was going. We've seen companies collapse due to people power before, and I'm not talking about that people power.
That lost a lot of viewers for the product as well, which they realised and they had to get rid of the guy. Although, to be fair, what else he was doing behind the scenes also the reason why he got kicked to the curb.
Yeah, it was more the things he was doing undercover. So under the covers.
Or should I say under the Bella's mum? Dirty bastard.
Well, when the opportunity, if you don't, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. No, that's horrible.
Yes, comment of the night. Comment of the night.
But that's kind of the problem. They want everyone to, okay, everyone, no more drama. And CM Punk's like, yeah, no more drama. But I was right. It's like when two kids are told to stop arguing. And you're like, okay, I was right though. And it's just going to continue the argument.
Yeah.
I don't get what he wants to actually accomplish with this.
No, I agree with you. I think it's the worst thing is, right?
It's petty all round.
Yeah. The worst thing as well though is, first of all, it's like I've got no wish. Like, I'm friends with a few Elite fans, and it's funny watching the rest of the Elite Twitterverse going mental. Like, they have been going up shit creek for the past couple of days about this. Like, they just don't know how to shut their mouths. It's so bloody funny. But then vice versa, it's the same for Punk fans. And I'm just sitting there watching it all going, and press play. Let's watch.
Yeah, it's certainly one of those where you're.
But this is the thing but this is the thing that bothers me as well, and this is actually something I can relate when it comes to football fans. This is why I hate people that are player FC, where it's always about, oh, my favourite player didn't play this week. Oh, fuck the manager, sack the manager. And I'm like, no, fuck you and your pathetic fans. Like, just fuck the lot of you. And it's the same for a wrestler. Oh, but my favourite wrestler's not world champion.
Oh, that's a really hurtful incident, okay? Because CM Punk
fought
hard for that title,
Or another contest. Oh, my favorite wrestler got cut this week. Oh, my favorite wrestler was on TV.
Yeah, I mean the cut thing's a little harder to call because obviously that's people.
That's true. That's true.
But
it's
people losing their real jobs in certain instances. I mean, obviously there's like a microscope on any drama happening in AEW because they made it that way. If AEW don't like the narrative about how their company is just full of drama and people who don't like each other and people who only want what's best for them, and people who aren't willing to do the right thing for the business because they're just doing the thing that benefits them in the moment. No one else created that reputation for AEW other than the stars of AEW. And there were incidents before the big one, but after Brawl Out, and we said it, Tony Khan had to get a hold of his fucking talent and say, here's what you can do, here's what you can't do. Stop building. What happened to that whole stop building feuds on your own thing?
Yeah.
This is clearly exactly what CM Punk's doing. Either that or Tony Khan's just like, well, my wrestling hero's out there, so I'm just going to let him do what he wants. And, he can do what he wants in other places too. I think Tony Khan's a pathetic individual. And everything he's done with this situation just shows that.
Yeah, to be honest, at the moment, there's so many promoters or bookers at the minute that have pissed me off. He's one of them. Gado's pissed me off in the past couple of days. I'm not getting back into that.
No. I thought you'd want to. We've got a bit of time. What were your thoughts on the G1, the G1 finale?
That's my match of the year.
Oh,
that final was my match of the year. But what happened up to that is pissed me off. Because
who cares? You got a match of the year out of it.
Yeah, but I just hate the fact of considering what happened before then when he overlooked certain talent in favour of that clown Evil in the House of Herpes. Sorry, House of Torture. Absolute boredom.
We have a House of Black and a House of Torture as well.
Yeah, I mean, House of Black at least is entertaining. House of Torture is absolutely nothing. But it's just ridiculous. But there's some parts of G1 I thought was absolutely amazing. Some of the matches they had, but I just hated that one or two of like the younger talent just did not get put through. I really would have just enjoyed that. Just something fresh. That was my only negative take from the G1. But
there's nothing fresh about New Japan. New Japan is John Cena versus Randy Orton, but that's the whole card.
Nah, I mean, I get where you're coming from, but in that sense, but it depends on who's...
as a fairly casual New Japan fan, literally just checking at Wrestle Kingdom, I'm like, okay, which of these 8 is taking on another one of these 8? And, okay, what we doing from here? It's never like we're going in a bold new direction, Well, I think Pro Wrestling. Same old Japan Pro Wrestling.
Well, I think some decisions they're making is quite interesting. The fact that they're obviously October 14th, they're bringing Royal Quest to London. I'm saying this now, I'll be watching on New Japan World. I'm not travelling down to England for another pay-per-view. Give us one in Scotland, for fuck's sake.
No, but you've got Impact to gear up for around that time.
Yeah, I've got my tickets for that. I'm going.
I know you would. Impact's biggest and only fan.
No, there's genuinely a lot, and circumstance-wise, it's actually looking good for the 1000 episode. And speaking of the 1000, because I wanted to bring this up, somebody has actually confirmed for the show is actually Angelina Love and Velvet Sky. Now, I'm not bringing them up for...
I know those names.
Yeah, the beautiful people. And also, or the Allure for Ring of Honor before Ring of Honor went to madness a couple of years ago. Not their fault, but I wanted to bring something up that, funnily enough, she tweeted a month ago. It is a month ago, but it actually does relate to right now, considering what we just spoke about wrestling fans and their preferences and then how they actually take things on to a new level. It was a very short tweet, but it was an open question. Her tweet was, does anybody watch wrestling just to enjoy it anymore?
No.
Yeah, it's always about that heavy critique. And self-imposed destruction.
Yeah, but this is when you've then got to ask yourself, obviously...
Why do you watch wrestling?
I think Velvet Sky's saying it because... Okay. How many people who tweet that genuinely believe that there is like a problem with criticizing wrestling? Like who would go to bat for the business and say like, oh yeah, this is like an issue. We need to fix this. We need to stop people just being overly critical. And how much of that is just point scoring?
90%.
Exactly. So when Velvet Sky tweets that, it could just be a load of shit. Like, oh hey, back me. I want what's best for the business. Because 90% of the time, I want what's best for the business means I want to be on top, fuck everyone else. And that's kind of, that circles us neatly back round to exactly how CM Punk feels about everything.
Of course,
fuck the business, push me.
But in the circumstance of it, she isn't even... Well, it was Angelina Love that tweeted. She's still actually competing in the ring, whereas Velvet Sky's actually just on commentary. She's doing commentary. She's retired from the ring, but just in general concept where, like, I generally wonder if there's just people who just generally watch wrestling and just enjoy it. Forget critiquing. Forget, there's multiple promotions, so there's a different variety. We can watch different things. But it's just a question of, do they just watch it to enjoy it? WWE pisses me off frequently. AEW pisses me off. But I still watch them. I still enjoy wrestling in different circumstances, different ways of wrestling. I watch New Japan for the shoot wrestling. WWE is more story-based, but to be fair, their minutes per match or match quality is really low. And obviously, AEW is more geared towards the New Japan process of like, it's more of the shoot sense where it's more minutes for matches and storytelling. That's fine. Everyone's got their preferences. But I would rather just watch wrestling where I know I'm still going to critique it on the podcast, but I'm going to critique it in the right manner. I'm not going to critique it to point score. So I'm not critiquing WWE because I think AEW is better. Or I'm not going to critique NXT because NXT is not really going to be enough for it. It's still billed as a development show, but it's not. It's actually really entertaining. Yeah. So I think people are... One thing I hate is, and I've said it with you before, and I've said it on this show before, is I hate tribal fans. I hate tribal fans because they are the absolute disgrace to what fan representation is, because they know, because they'll get their engagement, they'll get their numbers. They twist so many people, you said it before once, and it's the perfect way to describe it. Twitter is an echo chamber. But it's an echo chamber filled with absolute drones and sheep. And I am none of those. My opinion will always be my opinion on any product. If I think it's shit, I think it's shit. And I said that about SummerSlam. SummerSlam was shit. But I also thought last week's Dynamite was boring. But there were parts that I enjoyed. There was a bit of SummerSlam that I enjoyed. Said that to you. But that's different. That's not point scoring. Whereas on social media, it's always about finding point scoring. And the one big example is people use ratings as a point score. And my counter argument is, you can have 3 million viewers, but you can have a shit product. Right now we've got 3 people watching. That's fine. We don't complain about numbers. We've never complained. We just enjoy talking about wrestling, and we enjoy any communication we get from our audience. So we could have 3 people, as an example, And if anybody came in our comments and said our show was shit, I wouldn't get angry. I would just go back and ask, what is it you don't like?
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, to again, sort of, it's uncomfortable to have the lens on us in this discussion, make it sound like we're sort of more important to it than.
Which we're not. I'm just saying
what
like,
you're saying, okay?
Saying it.
But I come back to this, okay, and it's one of the biggest myths in all of not only like the conversation around wrestling, but just debate in general. And I mean, it's really annoying when you hear it. You know, and I don't know, like it's annoying to an extent. I know you say it, okay, but I am I'm growing tired of the narrative that watch me because I'm completely unbiased. The thing is, you can be you can be consciously unbiased, you know. You can go into something with like the full intentions, you know, you have open mind. It's like I'll just watch this, right? But bias is unconscious, you know. This is why there's so many tricky conversations and issues in the world, because people want to claim that they've got no biases, no judgment against anyone for anything. And they do. They very often do. And that's where it gets difficult, because it gets difficult to then say, oh, I'm completely unbiased.
Yeah, and I agree with you.
No, it's the case. It's how you use that bias. And the thing is, I'm 100% tribal, you know, because quite frankly, I've been burned too many times by AEW and shit.
And that's completely fine.
They ran out of chances. There comes a point where you have to actually put your foot down and say, no, I'm not just going along with this because everyone else is enjoying it. This is shit, and I'm going to tell you why.
And that is
the problem with that, I guess, is that everyone then wants to do that. And I know this is weird. It's like I'm sort of self-critiquing here.
I'm kind of glad you are, though, because it actually opens you up a little bit.
You want those sound bites, you know. You want someone to basically go, oh yeah, that was like a really good point, really well made, or you know, that was an entertaining way to say it, that sort of thing.
That's why she's hiding when she has an Intercontinental title. It's embarrassing.
But it's absolutely the case that
she should be showing off the Workers' Championship, because she is the worker.
I'll work you into shit in a minute.
No, I'm just saying. Just saying, you are the you're just the Mr. Perfect, and I'm just the Steve Austin. I mean, I'm not. I don't have a bald. I'm not bald, and I got a goatee. But you know where the fact is.
And you're probably a lightweight, but considering I don't drink,
I don't drink either. I don't drink either.
Well, like, that's really the main point that's being made there. Is, you know, you talk about being unbiased. You can be consciously unbiased. You know, you don't watch something and immediately think it's shit. You give it its chance. But unfortunately, the way that the human brain works is we have things, we have opinions, we have you know, feelings and thoughts and everything that we kind of shield. We don't really want people to know that's what we think, because, and it could be for multiple reasons that we don't want people to think that. So when it comes to do we watch wrestling for fun anymore, I would say fun is the main objective. But when fun isn't provided,
I'm just going to answer this and say, I'm just going to quickly answer that. No, that's true. And I'll say this: I am not completely unbiased. I think anybody that says they're completely unbiased is bizarre and lying to themselves. But in the answer to this question as well, Connor, no. Cena doesn't need to be a Grand Slam champion. Just like I don't believe Sheamus needs to be either. I think people need to stop thinking Sheamus is going to be an IC champion. Just get out of your heads. Not everyone deserves to be a Grand Slam. There should only have been one Grand Slam champion in WWE, and they wasted the whole point years ago. It should have been just Shawn Michaels on his own, and that was it.
Yeah, but I think that's with where it's at now, with the fact that, you know, the Miz is there twice.
Rollins is also, yeah.
Yeah, I think John Cena should. I can't work out what his route is.
I don't even think Orton's a Grand Slam champion, is he? Is Randy Orton a Grand Slam champion? I don't think he is.
Yes.
Is he? Actually, hold on. Intercontinental title, US title, WWE World. Yeah, no, sorry, he is, yeah. Grand Slam.
Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, it should be something that's coveted, the Grand Slam.
Like,
but ultimately, when you look at the level of worker that we've given it to,
yeah,
it's a little insulting that John Cena isn't there.
Yeah. But you look at others who aren't Grand Slams. The Rock isn't a Grand Slam. Austin isn't a Grand Slam. Bret Hart, I'm pretty sure, isn't a Grand Slam champion.
But it also wasn't... It was rarer back then.
Yeah, when Michaels done it, nobody really thought it was going to happen until Vince decided on the same night, oh, actually, I'm just going to give it to Michaels. And then he made an absolute great deal of it because it led to Montreal. And I'm like, you know what, I'll allow it. I'm like,
yeah, I mean, it was obviously a huge event for the business. But speaking of huge events for the business or potential consequences,
yes.
The other thing you wanted to talk about was this Asuka thing. Now, of course, anything that occurs over on Twitter, you've not got much chance of me actually seeing it. So you've drawn my attention to it. And I guess we're going to discuss Asuka and whatever this was.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And obviously I'm sharing this direct because I quoted it and I actually agree with everything she said. Like, I actually do agree with everything she actually said. I'm just waiting for it to show on screen. Where are you? There we go. So if anybody can see that, let me know. But basically, this was 10 years ago. Yeah, 10 years ago. And what this was this is when, at the time, Asuka as Can at the time, basically what you know Asuka at the moment, with the face paint gimmick, clown gimmick, it was taking shape in Japan. She was coming into her own, and she critiqued how women were being treated. And when you look at it in the retrospect, there is so much more to this that generally I can't fathom. There's a lot, and I'll admit that. From what I have seen, it gives me Attitude Era WWE and mid to late 2010 WWE vibes as well. Because what you're looking at is a woman who is clearly stated in her manifesto that her main points are to expand Joshi wrestling to include other styles, so adaptability. I like that. Eliminate, obviously, fake moves, which we know are still existent today. Yep. It's failed. Conduct a review of the industry as a whole and get rid of wrestlers that clearly shouldn't. Divas, talentless twats. Yep, because they're still there. And deal with the negative toxic environment.
And they're more numerous than ever before.
Yeah, and they're disgusting. Deal with the negative toxic environment of the scene and promote positivity and mutual respect. Nope, because people don't give a shit. And the last one is encourage those who couldn't develop their persona or style to try other industries rather than flounder in uncertainty. Again, that failed because we'll just carry on. And we'll just show that we are beautiful, or we've got certain things that can use to manipulate and get ahead. And what was something that they did? They put them in bikini shots. They used their body, sex appeal.
It did get them ahead, you know?
But it also led to so much shit that they couldn't handle.
And the worst thing meant they had to give a head. That's horrible.
You're just dirty. If I had sound effects, there'd be a few that I'd play off. But what's interesting about this, though, is why this is on today's discussion. So this happened half a decade into her career. She's doing this to try and improve the product for a woman. She's actually also trying to do this for men as well. She's trying to educate people as well in making it better. But the sad concept is, what actually happened instead, she ended up becoming a main eventer. She ended up becoming the biggest name in women's wrestling at the time. Over there in Japan, she was booked extensively. So what she's done instead, is instead of making the industry better, she's inadvertently made it all better for her.
And if anyone's getting an echo to what I just said about Velvet Sky not too long ago, this is why.
Yeah. And I'm thinking,
it's like, you know those posts, right? You know those posts, and they were rife when the World Cup was going to Qatar. Now, obviously, anyone who's seen me on the channel before or can tell from the colour scheme exactly what I think of anything going on over there. But I digress.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was tweeting, like, you know those things like on Facebook where it's like, imprisoning people for being gay is bad, like if you agree. You know?
Yeah.
It's a bit like saying Nutella is tasty, like if you agree. Like, everyone thinks that.
You're
all
right.
that happens as a result of this, it's not like anyone making the actual decisions goes, oh, they've said it's bad. Oh, we shouldn't be imprisoning these people. Tell you what, let's just not. You know?
Yeah.
Out you come.
You're right.
Yeah. And it's the same sort of thing that's gone on here. You know? Asuka's sort of gone, we should strive to do this. Like if you agree. And it pushed her because it got her noticed. Maybe not in a positive way, but it's because people were talking about her. CM Punk, I want less drama. People are talking about you causing the drama. Anyone who opens their mouth is suddenly the center of attention. That's why people open their mouths. That's why I admire the people who don't.
Yeah, but I think from what we can see though, in respect, and I think this is a fair thing to say from what she's said, she is trying to make something better. She's trying to get, and I'm going to use an example that I actually referenced as well on Twitter on the same tweet. I just didn't show it, but I used the comparison of WWE at the time in the early 2000s when obviously WWE have got their Ruthless Aggression documentaries. You know, the ones they brought out, like and there's one about the women's division, and it was the likes of Trish Stratus, Lita, and Victoria, who, to be fair, at the time were well known for what they were doing. Lita well known for the Hardys. Trish Stratus famous for, well, we know why she was famous. And obviously Victoria was just an absolute machine. But when you look at it, during one of the episodes, they came out and said that they didn't want to be viewed as just women as sex objects anymore. This is what they were being viewed as. They wanted to be viewed as people that they were actually there. They wanted to work. They wanted to take the product and the business seriously. They wanted to hone their craft. And it was actually showing. Like, they got more TV time. They got more opportunity to try and show their craft, got better and better. But then obviously the Diva Search project, or the Diva Search, whatever it was, happened. And you saw it became more about, we're just going back. We just want to get beautiful women in that don't know what they're doing, but we're going to bring them in because it's just going to attract viewership instead of people who generally want to improve the product for the long term, which then led to the likes of Mickie James, one of the best women's talents that's ever happened. Still better than the vast majority of the women that they have in WWE at the moment. You look at it and then you compare that to, well, Layla, or basically anybody that just can't wrestle. So the Bella Twins, or I'll just go with that. The Bella Twins and Layla as an example. That's got them.
Very nice.
I'm just being honest. I don't think they ever could wrestle, and they got exposed a lot in the ring heavy by people that could work. I'm not a fan of Natalya, but Natalya exposed them often enough. I just think when you look at it, they were more about the vanity than they were about the product. And Christy Hemme is another one. I don't dislike Christy Hemme. I thought Christy Hemme in TNA was actually good when she changed up and she realised actually she has to work. She didn't anyway. But she realised she had no other option to it, otherwise she would not go anywhere, and eventually she just became an announcer. What I'm looking at from that perspective is you've got people who generally want the product to be better. They're willing to put the work in, and then what do? You just revert back to what you knew because forget it, we already have what we need. We don't need the women. Until eventually the whole 2015 sense with Paige and we give women a chance. Well, we saw how that worked last year when it went back to 2-minute matches. So you give women a chance, went back to give women less time. And now AEW are doing it. And I'm like, it doesn't matter what you do, it's never going to work. Like, unless you are a true believer of women's wrestling, is it really going to work? No, because if women's wrestling was truly going to kick on, why did WWE stop after the Evolution pay-per-view? Gave them the pay-per-view, and then after that, nothing major's happened since. Unless you go to Impact or Stardom. But, funnily enough, coincidentally, this is all starting from Stardom. The whole thing led to Stardom, this Asuka Manifesto. So I'm like, and this is my question I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask the live chat. What do they generally have to do to prove a point to get it across? Like, what else is there physically they can do to get it across? Because I don't see WWE and I don't see AEW doing hour or 2 hour programming a week where it's just for women. Like we said it before, Rampage could just be for women. What could WWE do for women? I don't see it.
What we need,
you know what I mean?
Is for a billionaire to come across, come along and want to start women's only wrestling promotion.
Well, they have that.
They have that because with their hands in their pockets. They needed a fuckwit to come along and start a wrestling promotion for fuckwits. Then fuckwits suddenly got all the jobs.
But we've seen, though, that Maria Kanellis has women's of wrestling. She's got that. Stardom's in Japan, but why isn't any of the major, like the big ones, why are they not doing enough where you've got dedicated programs to women instead of just giving them short periods every week? Like, end of the day, is there going to be equality between men and women in wrestling, just like any other sport? Highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. But is there opportunity to at least go and try at it? Yes. Are they afraid to do it? Absolutely. Because what are they fueled by? Money. They're coppers.
Yeah, we all know that. And there you go. Connor's nailed it again. No one would watch it. No one would care. Why should they care? There's no reason for them to care.
I've seen Evolution, I've seen NWA do a women's only pay-per-view. Like, there's been 2 women's only pay-per-views and nothing general's happened since. General, unless you go to Stardom or if you go to Impact.
Tells you a lot about what they thought of those shows.
Mm-hmm.
Without saying anything, it tells you a lot about what they thought for what those shows actually did. Because if they were raking in the money, we know that it would happen. We're not naive little children anymore. We know that the money is what will move people towards it.
I'm actually going to have a look at what the buy was for Evolution. Have a look. That's something that just came to mind. What was the Evolution?
Investigative journalism here.
5 years ago, 10,900 people was there to watch it. Nassau Coliseum, 10,900. You'd think they'd do a little bit better. See if I can find the buy. What's the buy rate? I just want to know what the buy rate was. Because actually, you had the Mae Young Classic was also this, like the NXT UK Women's title was, funnily enough, removed from this show, and that was moved to the dark match.
Yep.
That was a dark match before the show, which was actually embarrassing. Where is it?
But again, no one was there to care.
Yeah, it's a shame, really, because
again, people, it's back to this if you agree stuff.
It's a shame because it was actually a good show.
Women's wrestling should be pushed, if you agree. Most people agree with that? What are you going to do other than like if you agree?
Yeah, it says a lot when you look at just the reception of the like. This is coming from Wikipedia, so don't worry, I'm not taking it with a pinch of salt. But there are some things there that's interesting. Like this has come from IGN and Meltzer. So the last women's standing match between Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair, that was ranked number 1 in top 25 matches of 2018 by WWE. It was ranked number 1 in IGN's top 10 matches of that year.
Yep,
I can name several matches that were better than that of that year alone. Dave Meltzer rated the SmackDown Women's Title match, 4 3/4 stars. The highest rated match of the night. The main event was 3.75, which was, I believe, Bella versus Rousey.
Yeah.
The six women tag and the NXT Women's Title, which was Kairi Sane versus Baszler, and the Battle Royal all got 3 1/4 stars. The Mae Young Classic got 3.5, and the opening tag got 2 2/4, which was the lowest match. So some of them were generally averse, but there was one comment. This is it. I found it. December 2019 interview with TalkSport, Stephanie McMahon stated, "I'm hopeful to have an announcement on Evolution 2, but there is nothing official to announce just yet. A report by Alex McCarthy of Sportskeeda in July 2020 that a second Evolution event was seen as a no-brainer, with female talent pushing for internal intensive plans being made for the end of the year. In 2020, December period, Trish Stratus stated that she had begun training for the rumoured event, but she had received no call. In a conference call for June 2021's NXT TakeOver in Your House, Triple H was questioned if WWE would ever hold another female talent. He said it was possible, talking of his arse, but it's not a must-have at the moment. He also found it odd that people thought doing more all-female events would mean equality for the women's division, but cited the contradiction in that WWE would be criticised if they would run an all-male event. I agree with that. Essentially, separate does not mean equal. He also responded to a comment made by former WWE wrestler Mickie James in regards to the NWA's August 2021 all-event Empower, in which James served as an executive producer. James said that she'd wanted the best female wrestler in the world on that event, regardless of contractual issues, which is true. She went across the board, but he then says, Triple H said that from a business standpoint that it did not make sense and gave his own opinion, saying the female wrestlers wanted to face the best in the world, they should come to WWE. Again, any point to tribal, but again, that's what he's got to do.
Well, it's what he has to do, but he's got every right to be tribal. He's got a dog in the fight.
Yeah, but this is where it gets. This is one that's actually really interesting. I'm just going to skip on to this one. Not about the failures, but here we go. Sasha Banks, obviously, at the time was quoted as being a vocal supporter of another all-female event. June 2021, former WWE wrestler Mania Kanellis also stated that former head of talent relations Mark Carano informed her that there would not be another all-female event. Dave Meltzer stated on Wrestling Observer that whilst Evolution was not a commercial failure for WWE and not the worst performing event of the year, it was still lower on the end of ticket sales despite it being heavy marketing push compared to those sizes. Glenn Rubenstein of Wrestling Inc. reported that 90% of the seats were filled in the arena despite the reported sellout prior to the announcement of the match between Bella versus Rousey, which saw a surge in ticket sales. WWE had sold 7,000 tickets, with 3,000 tickets belonging to scalpers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Heavy circumstance. Well, but still nothing about the buy rate.
Yeah, well, I mean, the issue there is the media wanted, the media needed, and again, you can actually, it's shocking the number of parallels you can draw between AEW and Evolution.
Yep.
The media wanted this to work because the media needed it to work. I think if you ask Dave Meltzer now his honest star ratings on the night, he would drop them.
Oh, yeah.
He wasn't going to give it a 5-star match. He had to give 1 4 3/4 star match. Now maybe it deserved it, maybe it didn't. Only Dave Meltzer can decide that. But the fact that we had all this marketing, all this push, it's the same way that Hollywood's gone. All this marketing, all this push. The problem is, especially when it comes to wrestling, is that the women, the female fans that they want, and it's, as I say, Hollywood's sort of grappling with the same problem. The female fans and the demographic that they want, you know, they want mothers to take their children. They want women fans.
Yeah.
Women are more likely to want to see Roman Reigns. They're more likely to want to see Finn Balor or Seth Rollins or, you know, the guys.
Yeah.
Or, you know, Rhea Ripley is probably asked women, straight men, which wrestler they found most attractive on the female division. Most of them would say Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, vast majority.
There's a certain appeal about it. That appeal is lost if you do an Evolution show, because these women are then seeing women, and the women that are inspired by that are the women who are inspired by other women. But again, we're going vocal minority here. We're going with the loud minority. We're going with people who are like, book the women better with your sign in the AEW and everything like that. No actual change will ever be made in the world on most things. And until someone who has the power decides that's the way they want to go.
Yeah.
The reason we even got Evolution 1 is because Stephanie McMahon had such a high position in the company compared to now, where is she in terms of company? Exactly. Turfed out.
Just like her husband will be very soon.
Yeah, so they're away enjoying being a family, and that's absolutely fine. But that's why you're not going to get it again. Why would the UFC do it? Why would the guys at Endeavour do it?
Good point.
You know, there's no reason to. So until anyone with the power wants to do it, it's not going to happen. Anyway, I've noticed the time there, so I don't know if you want to maybe lead a bit of a chat with the audience, but I am going to have to rush off. It's the usual middle of the night shift for my fiance, so I'll have to go and sort that.
I'm just going to bring up this last comment, which is WWE will need to be prepared to lose for a while before they make money on it, something I don't think they're willing to do. WWE are too busy stalling over the bloodline situation because they're absolute melts.
I think in the same way that women's football would need 50 years of the coverage that men's football gets before it was worth even half as much.
And serious investment. And
we're in the same position with women's wrestling. It will always be an attraction on the card. It will very rarely be the match people are most looking forward to. It will sometimes be the match of the night. You know, we've seen it this year multiple times. Obviously, Backlash is one that I go to. A lot of people saying that the Triple Threat was their favourite match on SummerSlam. You know, so people were praising Charlotte and Rhea. What was it?
Yeah.
Was it
Charlotte? Rhea, yeah.
Charlotte had a match. It was Rhea. So people are praising women's matches, but they're always like, "Oh, that was a surprise." It's never like I was expecting that to be the match of the night, because people always expect the match of the night to be the biggest thing, or the one with the biggest names.
Exactly.
The most intriguing match is sometimes built to be the match of the night before it happens. And then when it comes away with it being the women's match, it almost feels token. It feels like, I was surprised, and you know, I'm guilty of this too. I was surprised the best match on Backlash was Io Sky versus Bianca Belair. No, it shouldn't be, because Bianca Belair is fantastic. But going into the show, that match felt a little bit flat compared to, you know, the Bad Bunny versus Damian Priest, or Cody versus Brock.
Yeah.
Or the other thing.
No, you're right. I agree with you.
No, the six-man tag was flat. I'm trying to remember the other thing.
I quit match. I'm sure that was I quit at Backlash, wasn't it? Edge versus Balor, wasn't it not Backlash?
No, that was Extreme Rules.
Yeah. Edge wasn't at Backlash. Who was Finn Balor up against? There was something else that night anyway.
There most definitely was something else that people were.
So I mean, you had Carlito and all that turning up for
that was all in the Bad Bunny match. Anyway, so I'm gonna have to rush off, but it's been a pleasure as ever.
Great show, great show. Yeah, and we'll definitely be back.
It'll be time to preview All In soon enough. That's gonna be fun. But I'll catch you and everyone in the comments later.
Absolutely, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I'm gonna get out here as well. There'll be some gaming streams as well. Probably tomorrow or Thursday you'll see some gaming streams, so keep an eye out for that. Probably do a couple of review shows for Weekly TV, and then we'll do All In preview on Saturday. If you do wish to join us, let us know. Leave the comments on the actual videos themselves. I do view them, so get your comments in, get all your questions, anything you'd like on the show. Check out our community tab for any posts that I put up, all the community tab posts I put up. So if you want that, let us know. And then if you wish to appear in any future Weekly Steelchair shows, let me know, because you're more than welcome. Anyone on here is welcome to chat wrestling. But in the meantime, I'm going to get out here. Thank you so much to my co-host as well, Eilidh. Another great show. In the meantime, I'll see you all later.